You were not supposed to find this video today. Think about that for a second. Out of billions of videos sitting on this platform right now, you landed here. Your finger stopped scrolling. Something in you paused. And I want you to know that was not an accident. That was not random. That was not the algorithm. That was a door being opened for you. I am going to say something right at the start that might feel strange. This video is not for everyone. Most people who started watching already clicked away. They were not ready. But you stayed. And that means something. I believe with everything in me that the reason you are still here is because there is something in this message that your heart has been waiting to hear for a very long time. Now let me tell you something that will sound hard to believe at first. Right now, in this exact moment, at whatever time you are watching this, God is not just aware that you exist. He is not sitting far away on some distant throne looking down at you like a tiny speck. He is close. So close that the Bible says he is closer to you than your own breath, closer than your own heartbeat. He knows the exact number of hairs on your head. He knows what you were thinking about 3 minutes before you found this video. He knows what you whispered in the dark last Tuesday night when no one else was awake. And yet somehow, in the middle of all of that knowing, you still feel like maybe he has forgotten about you. That is the thing I want to break open today. Because that feeling, the one that says, God must not see me, the one that says, maybe my prayers are just bouncing off the ceiling, the one that says, I have been waiting so long that maybe it is just not going to happen for me. That feeling is one of the most dangerous lies ever told to a human soul. Here is what makes it dangerous. It does not feel like a lie. It feels like evidence. It looks like the calendar. It looks like the bank account. It looks like the person who walked out. It looks like the door that closed. It looks like the prayer you prayed 100 times that still seems unanswered. And when enough of those things pile up in your life, your mind starts connecting the dots and drawing a picture that says, God is not listening. But what if I told you the dots were connecting in a completely different direction than you thought? What if I told you that what looked like silence was actually the loudest thing God has ever done for you? What if the waiting you have been living through is not punishment but preparation for something so specific, so personal, and so powerful that when it lands in your life, you will not even be able to breathe for a moment? That is what this message is about. We are going to walk through 4 things today. First, we are going to talk about what it actually means that God sees you. And I mean really sees you, not in a vague religious way, but in a specific, detailed, personal way that will change how you pray forever. Second, we are going to pull apart the lie of the silence and show you exactly what God has been doing in the seasons that felt empty. Third, we are going to talk about the breakthrough that is already in motion. Because based on where you are right now, your season is shifting. And fourth, we are going to talk about the one thing the enemy is going to try to use to steal all of this from you. Because he already knows what is coming your way, and he is already setting traps. Stay until the end, not because I am asking you to, but because what is in the second half of this message is the part most people never get to hear. And it is the part that changes everything. One more thing before we go deeper. If this channel has ever dropped something into your spirit that hit exactly when you needed it, I want to ask you to subscribe right now. Not just to support the channel, but because we post content like this regularly. Content that is designed to meet you in the hard moments. Content that does not gloss over the pain or give you empty cheerleader lines. We go deep, we go real. And if that is the kind of thing your spirit needs, the subscribe button and the bell notification will make sure you never miss it. Click it now so the next message finds you just like this one did. All right, let us go deeper. Section 1. God sees you, and I mean all of it. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you walk into a stadium, a massive one. 80,000 people packed in, shoulder to shoulder, all talking at once. The noise is overwhelming. You cannot even hear the person standing right next to you. Now imagine someone across that stadium spots you. Not just glances in your direction, actually sees you, knows your name. Knows that this morning you woke up feeling heavy and you could not explain why. Knows that 3 days ago you got news that shook you. Knows that you have been carrying a secret fear that you have not told anyone. That is not possible in a stadium. In a stadium, you disappear into the crowd. But here is the truth that rewires everything. To God, there is no crowd. You are not one of 8 billion people he is vaguely aware of. You are not employee number 4 million in some cosmic corporation. From the moment you were formed, before you were born, before you had a name, God's full attention was on you. Not split attention, not divided attention, full attention. Psalm 139 is one of the most staggering pieces of writing in all of human history. It says that God knew you before you were formed, that he knit you together, that his thoughts towards you outnumber the grains of sand. Do you understand how many grains of sand there are on Earth? Scientists have tried to count them. The estimate is around 7 quintillion 500 quadrillion grains. That is a number so large it does not even fit inside a normal human brain. And God's thoughts toward you personally, are more than that. That is not poetic language to make you feel good. That is the Bible's way of saying, you are not an afterthought. You are not a background character in someone else's story. You are the subject of more divine attention than you have ever allowed yourself to believe. Now let me bring that out of the sky and into your real life. Think about the last time you cried alone. Maybe it was in your car. Maybe it was in the shower because the shower covers the sound. Maybe it was at 3 in the morning when the weight of everything you are dealing with just became too heavy to hold quietly. You thought no one saw that. You thought that moment was private, just you in the darkness. But God was there, not watching from a distance with a clipboard taking notes. Present, right there. And the Bible says something that should make your spine tingle. It says God collects your tears in a bottle. He keeps them. He does not forget them. Every single tear you have cried, he has held. That means your pain has not disappeared into nothing. It has been received, noted, and held by a God who does not forget. Now here is where this gets personal. You have been walking around with a version of God in your head that is too small. Most people do. The version we build in our minds looks something like a distant authority figure. Someone who is generally aware of us but busy with bigger things. Someone who steps in for big emergencies but probably does not have time to care about the smaller heartbreaks, the quiet disappointments, the slow grinding pain of a dream that keeps getting delayed. That version is wrong. Jesus told a story about a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One went missing, just one. The other 99 were safe. And the shepherd left the 99, went out into the dark, into the dangerous places, and searched until he found that one missing sheep. Then he picked it up, put it on his shoulders, carried it home, and threw a party. One sheep. One. Jesus told that story specifically to show you how God thinks about individuals. He does not do the math and say, well, 99% success rate is pretty good. I will let that one go. He goes after the one. He goes after you. No matter how far you have wandered, no matter how lost you feel, no matter how much you have convinced yourself that you are too far gone for God to bother with, you are the one he leaves everything else to come find. Let me say something that might be uncomfortable. You have been downplaying your own worth to God. Maybe because people in your life have made you feel small. Maybe because you made mistakes and you built a wall of shame around yourself that says, I do not deserve this kind of love. Maybe because religion gave you a picture of God as strict and disappointed, someone who is mostly keeping track of what you did wrong. And that picture made you feel like the best you could hope for was to stay out of trouble and get by. But the God of the Bible is a father who runs. There is a story about a son who took everything his father had, wasted every bit of it, lived in a way that would make anyone's face turn red with shame, and then came crawling back, hoping to be made a servant. And the father, who had been watching the road every day since his son left, saw him coming from far away and ran. Not walked, not waited, ran. And threw his arms around that son before the boy could even finish his rehearsed apology speech. That is who sees you right now. Not a judge waiting for you to explain yourself. A father who has been watching the road. A father who runs. So when life has made you feel invisible, when the days pile up and it seems like your prayers hit the ceiling and fall back down, I want you to hold this truth like a rock in your hand. You have never been invisible. Not for 1 second. Every detail of your life is known. Every wound is seen. Every prayer is heard. Every tear has been collected. The question is not whether God sees you. He does. The question is whether you are willing to let yourself be seen. Whether you are willing to drop the performance and the pretending and just come as you are, with the mess and the doubt and the hurt, and let the one who sees everything love you anyway. Because he already does. Section 2. Why the silence was not what you thought. Now here is where it gets interesting. Because I know what some of you are thinking right now. Okay, if God sees me, if he hears every prayer, if he collects every tear, then why has it been so quiet? Why does it feel like I have been praying into a void? Why has my situation not changed? Where is he in all of this? That is not a faithless question. That is an honest one. And it deserves a real answer. Let me use an analogy that might shift how you see this. Imagine you are a doctor, a surgeon. One of your patients comes in with a serious infection deep inside their body. That patient is in pain. Real, genuine pain. And they are asking you to just give them something to stop the hurting right now. Right this second. They do not want to wait. They do not want to go through surgery. They just want the pain to stop. You, as the doctor, could give them a strong painkiller. The pain would ease fast. They would feel better within the hour. And they would walk out of that hospital grateful. But the infection would still be there, growing, spreading, doing damage they cannot feel anymore because the painkiller is masking it. And eventually, that infection would become life-threatening. Or you could be honest with them. You could say, what you need is surgery. It is going to take time. It is going to be uncomfortable. You are going to have days after surgery where you feel worse than you did before you came in. But on the other side of this, you are going to be healthy, truly healthy. Not just pain-free for a while, but actually well. A doctor who loves their patient chooses the surgery. That is what God has been doing in your seasons of silence. He could have given you the quick fix, the fast relief, the speedy answer to the surface-level prayer. And for a moment, it would have felt like a miracle. But God, who sees not just today but your entire life from beginning to end, knew that the thing you were asking for was not yet able to do what it needed to do in your life. That the person you were becoming was not yet ready to carry what the blessing required. That if He opened that door right then, you would have walked through it and been crushed by what was on the other side because you were not ready for the weight of it. The silence was not rejection. It was surgery. And here is the thing about surgery. When you are on the table, you cannot see what is happening. You are out. You trust the doctor. You wake up not knowing what was fixed or how. You just know you made it through, and little by little you start to feel the difference. You have been waking up from seasons of surgery without knowing it. You thought you were just waiting. But while you were waiting, things were being removed from you. Old patterns that would have poisoned the new thing. Old mindsets that would have kept you stuck even if your circumstances changed. Old wounds that would have made you repeat cycles instead of breaking them. The silence was not empty. It was full of things being fixed. Now let me show you this from a different angle. Think about the story of Joseph in the Bible. If you do not know it, here is the short version. Joseph was one of 12 brothers. He had a dream from God that he would one day be in a position of great authority. Specific, clear dream. And what happened right after? His brothers threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery. He ended up in a foreign country working for a powerful man named Potiphar. Then he got falsely accused of something terrible. Then he went to prison. Then he helped a man in prison who promised to help him get out. And that man forgot about him for 2 full years. From the outside, if you did not know how the story ended, you would look at Joseph's life and say, God must not be listening. God must not care. How could God allow all of this to happen to someone He supposedly loves and has a plan for? But read the story again. Every single one of those terrible seasons was doing something. The pit taught him to trust God when there was no floor to stand on. The slavery taught him excellence and faithfulness when no one was watching and when he had nothing to gain from it. The false accusation taught him to keep his character clean even when circumstances were unfair. The prison connected him to exactly the right people at exactly the right time. And those 2 years the man forgot him? Those 2 years put him in position to meet the one person who could take him from prison to the palace. None of it was wasted. None of it was random. None of it was God looking away. And here is what makes this so personal for you. Whatever season you have been in, whatever silence you have been sitting inside, God has been doing what God always does. He has been using every single piece of it. The confusion, the loss, the delay, the loneliness, the disappointment. Every bit of it has been going into building something. You cannot see the blueprint from where you are standing, but the architect never lost it. Here is something else that most people never think about. The Bible says that God works all things together for good for those who love Him. Notice it says all things, not the happy things, not the clean things, not the things that make sense, all things. That means the worst thing that happened to you is included in that list. The betrayal is in there. The health scare is in there. The failure is in there. The broken relationship is in there. All of it is in the hands of a God who specializes in making beauty out of wreckage. There is a Japanese art form called kintsugi. When a piece of pottery breaks, instead of throwing it away or hiding the cracks with paint, the artist fills the cracks with gold. The broken places do not disappear. They become the most beautiful part of the piece. The cracks are now golden lines running through the object. And the whole thing becomes more valuable because of what it survived. You are being kintsugi'd. The places in you that broke, God is not filling them with shame or covering them up and pretending they did not happen. He is filling them with gold. The scars in your story are not marks of failure. They are proof that something survived. And in God's hands, what survived becomes the most beautiful part of the testimony. So the silence was real. The waiting was real. The pain was real. I am not going to tell you it was easy or that it should not have hurt. It did. But it was also something else at the same time. It was preparation. It was refinement. It was God doing the deep work that can only be done in the quiet seasons, because you cannot do deep surgery in a crowd. You are coming out of the table now, and what was fixed in the hidden places is about to show up in the open. Section 3. Your breakthrough is already in motion, all right. This is the part you have been waiting for. And I need you to sit with this one because it is going to challenge the way you think about time and about how God moves. There is a story in the Bible that most people read right past without stopping to realize how staggering it is. A man named Daniel prayed a prayer, just one prayer. And an angel showed up and said something that should make every person who has ever felt like their prayers were going unanswered stop completely in their tracks. The angel said, "From the very first day you prayed, your prayer was heard. I was sent immediately. But there was a battle in the spiritual realm that delayed me for 21 days. Read that again slowly. The first day Daniel prayed, the answer was already sent. Not eventually. Not after Daniel proved he was faithful enough. Not after he prayed the right number of times. The first day, day one. Now think about your prayers, the ones you prayed months ago, the ones you prayed years ago that you are starting to wonder about, the ones you prayed so many times that you almost stopped because it felt pointless. What if, from the very first day you prayed those prayers, the answer was already in motion? What if there is a battle happening in places you cannot see, and the breakthrough is not delayed because God forgot, but because there is something happening between the moment the answer was sent and the moment it lands in your life? That completely changes the prayer, does it not? It means when you pray and you do not see an immediate result, you are not praying into nothing. You are praying into a process that is already moving. You are not waking God up. You are working with something that started the moment you first asked. Now let me get very specific about what a breakthrough actually looks like, because most people have built a picture in their head of what their breakthrough is supposed to look like. They have a color, a shape, a set of circumstances that they have decided will be the sign that God came through. And the problem with a very specific picture is that it can make you miss the actual answer when it comes, because God almost never works exactly the way we expect. The Israelites were waiting for a Messiah. They had prophecies. They had a picture. And the picture most of them had built was of a powerful king who would come in with an army and overthrow Rome and restore Israel to political greatness. When Jesus showed up as a carpenter's son, born in a barn, riding a donkey into Jerusalem, washing the feet of fishermen, most of them missed him entirely. Not because they were not looking, but because what came did not match the picture they had built. Do not let your picture become a cage that keeps you from recognizing the real answer. Maybe you have been praying for a door to open, and what is coming is something that looks like a closed door at first, but leads to a hallway that takes you somewhere 10 times better. Maybe you have been praying for a specific person to come back into your life, and what is coming is healing that makes you realize why they left needed to happen for you to step into who you are called to be. Maybe you have been praying for financial relief, and what is coming first is an opportunity that requires you to move in faith before the numbers make sense. Trust the direction even when you cannot see the destination. Here is what I believe about where you are right now, based on the fact that you are still here in this message, based on the fact that something in your spirit is stirring as you listen, based on the patterns of what God does in people's lives when they are in a season that has stretched long and felt heavy. You are close, not in a vague keep believing and one day it will happen kind of way. In a specific right now this season way. Think about a pregnancy. 9 months. Every week something is changing inside, but for the first 6 or 7 months, you cannot really tell by looking. The changes are hidden. And then one day the bump appears and grows, and suddenly everyone can see what has been happening the whole time. And then at the end, right before the birth, the pressure and discomfort actually increases. The contractions get harder. The discomfort is at its peak in the moments just before the new life comes out. If you have been feeling the pressure increase lately, if it feels like things have actually gotten harder right before your breakthrough, that is not a sign that you are getting further away. That is a sign you are in the contractions. The new thing is coming, and it is coming soon. And when it comes, here is what it is going to do. It is going to restore things you thought were gone forever. People in your life who need healing. Dreams you buried because they seemed impossible. Opportunities you assumed had passed you by. Joy that grief seemed to steal for good. God is a restorer. The book of Joel says he will restore the years the locust has eaten. That is not a metaphor about insects. That is a promise about time, about seasons that felt like waste, about years that felt like they added up to nothing. God can give back in months what felt like it was lost over years. He can compress what looks like it would take forever into a season of sudden acceleration. And here is the thing about God-sized breakthroughs. They are never just about you. Every time God brings someone through a season of waiting and into a place of breakthrough, that person becomes a testimony. They become proof. They become a living, breathing, walking piece of evidence that God is real and faithful and does not forget his people. And the very same people who watched you struggle, who maybe even doubted you, who maybe even said it would never get better, they will have to stand in front of your story and see the fingerprints of God all over it. Your breakthrough is not just your miracle. It is someone else's reason to believe. So hold on, keep going. Do not make any permanent decisions based on temporary pressure. Do not close doors that God has not told you to close. Do not walk away from what he told you to wait for, just because the wait has been hard. The morning is coming, and it is coming fast. Section 4. The one thing that could steal all of this. Now this is the part of the message that most videos like this skip. And I need you to hear it because if you do not, everything we have talked about today could get taken from you before you even have a chance to see it land. There is an enemy. And I am not talking about the person at work who makes your life hard. I am not talking about the family member who gets under your skin. I am not talking about the economic situation or the difficult circumstances around you. I am talking about a real, intelligent, strategic force whose entire purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy the things God has planned for your life. And here is the part that should make you lean in. He does not need to change what God is doing. He cannot do that anyway. What he does is much more subtle than that. He gets into your head. He whispers into the spaces between your prayers and your answers. He takes the silence, the waiting, the delay, and he fills it with his own narration. And his narration sounds like your own voice inside your mind, which is what makes it so dangerous. The voice says, "It has been too long, this is not going to happen." The voice says, "You already missed your chance. You made too many mistakes." The voice says, "God is busy with people who deserve it more." The voice says, "Everyone else is moving forward. You are stuck." The voice says, "If it was going to work out, it would have happened already." Every single one of those statements is a lie. Not a misunderstanding, not a perspective, a lie. Crafted specifically for you, designed to make you give up 20 minutes before midnight. Because that is the enemy's greatest weapon, not pain. Pain can actually strengthen faith. His greatest weapon is discouragement right before the breakthrough. If he can get you to let go just before the door opens, he wins without ever having to do anything dramatic. He just has to make you give up early. Think about a marathon runner at mile 24. 2 miles from the finish line. They have been running for hours. Their body is screaming, everything hurts. The voice in their head is saying, "You cannot make it." And if they believe that voice and stop at mile 24, they do not finish. Not because they were not capable, not because the finish line was not there, but because they believed a lie at the worst possible moment. Do not stop at mile 24. Now let me talk about a few specific traps he sets, because being able to name them is the first step to not falling into them. The first trap is comparison. He will show you everyone else's highlight reel right next to your raw footage. He will make sure you see every announcement, every celebration, every person who seems to be moving forward while you feel stuck. And the goal is to make you feel like you have been left behind, like you are the exception to God's goodness. Like blessings are for other people who somehow deserve it more, or have more faith, or are more spiritually together than you. Here is the truth. God does not grade on a curve. His blessings are not a limited resource where if someone else gets theirs, yours runs out. Your breakthrough is not in competition with someone else's breakthrough. Their promotion has nothing to do with your timeline. Their healing does not delay your healing. God is not rationing his goodness. Stop comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. You do not even know what they went through to get there. The second trap is offense. And this one is sneaky because it often feels completely justified. Someone let you down. Someone betrayed your trust. Someone said something that cut you deeply. Someone who was supposed to be in your corner walked out when things got hard. And you are holding on to that. Not because you are a bad person, but because what they did was real, and it hurt, and it deserves to be acknowledged. But unforgiveness is not protection. It is a chain. And the worst part is that the chain is attached to you, not them. You are the one carrying the weight. You are the one whose spirit is heavy. You are the one whose prayers feel blocked. Not because God is punishing you, but because bitterness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. The Bible says to forgive as you have been forgiven. And I know that feels impossible sometimes. I know there are things that happened to you that you did not deserve and that should not have happened. But forgiveness is not saying what they did was okay. It is not pretending it did not happen. It is not even necessarily restoring the relationship. It is releasing the weight so that you can move forward. It is handing the justice over to God and trusting Him to handle it, because He will handle it so much better than you can. Let it go, not for them, for you, for the breakthrough that is waiting on the other side of the release. The third trap is isolation. When we are hurting, the natural instinct is to pull away, to stop going to church, to stop calling the friends who pray for us, to stop putting ourselves in spaces where God can speak to us. And the enemy loves that, because isolated prey is so much easier to take down than prey that stays in the pack. There is something in the gathering of believers that God designed specifically for seasons of waiting and warfare. When your faith is low, someone else's faith covers you. When you cannot sing, someone else's voice carries you. When you are too tired to stand, you lean on the one standing next to you. Do not isolate. Do not disappear. This is the exact wrong season to stop surrounding yourself with people who carry the presence of God. The fourth trap is counterfeit comfort. When the breakthrough is taking longer than expected, the enemy offers shortcuts. Things that numb the waiting. Things that feel like relief, but are actually just distractions that cost you. It might look like bitterness becoming cynicism. It might look like habits that give you temporary relief, but pull you further from where you need to be. It might look like making decisions out of impatience that close doors God had not finished preparing for you. The shortcut always costs more than the wait, every single time. Do not take the shortcut. The real thing is coming. Wait for it. Now let me tell you something empowering. The fact that the enemy is working this hard against you is actually evidence of something. Think about it. If there was nothing significant in your future, there would be nothing to fight over. The enemy does not waste his time on people who are not dangerous to his plans. The fact that he keeps pushing against you, keeps throwing discouragement at you, keeps trying to get you to give up, is actually a sign that what is ahead of you is worth fighting for. You are more of a threat than you know. The gifts inside you, the calling on your life, the testimony that is being built right now in the middle of your mess, all of it has a reach and an impact that goes far beyond what you can see right now. And the enemy sees the end of your story even when you cannot. And what he sees at the end of your story terrifies him. So he is doing everything possible to stop you from getting there. Do not let him win. Here is what you fight back with. Not with your own strength, not with willpower, with worship in the middle of the storm, with prayer that does not wait for the feeling to come back, with community that holds you when you are too tired to hold yourself, with the word of God that you speak out loud even when your mind is telling you it is not going to work, with gratitude for what is still standing even after everything that has fallen. These are not just nice spiritual suggestions. They are weapons. Active, powerful, history-changing weapons that have broken chains, shifted circumstances, and stopped the plans of the enemy in their tracks more times than any battlefield in human history. Pick them up. Use them. And when the breakthrough comes, and it is coming, use your story to reach back for someone else who is still in the waiting. Because your testimony will be someone else's lifeline. Your God did it for me will be the reason someone else holds on for one more day. Your life, the one that right now might feel like it is barely holding together, is going to be a light that other people find their way by. That is not small. That is not ordinary. That is a calling. Section 5, the landing. This is where you go from here. We have covered a lot of ground today. We talked about being seen, fully and specifically seen, by a God whose thoughts toward you outnumber the grains of sand. We talked about the silence and what was actually happening inside it. We talked about the breakthrough that is already in motion and how to recognize it when it comes. And we talked about the traps the enemy has set and how to walk past every single one of them. But now I want to leave you with something practical, because a message like this can move you while you are watching and then fade by the time you hit the parking lot of real life. I do not want that for you. I want this to stick. So here are 3 things to do before this video ends. The first thing is this: go back to your prayer life, not to impress God, not to check a box, but because prayer is the conversation between you and the one who has been waiting to speak. And based on everything we talked about today, you have someone listening who is deeply, specifically, personally invested in what you have to say. Bring it all: the doubts, the fears, the things you are ashamed of, the things you are hoping for, the anger, the confusion, all of it. He can handle it, and he has been waiting. The second thing is this: find one person today who is in a season of waiting and tell them what you heard in this video. You do not have to be a theologian. You do not have to have it all figured out. Just tell them what hit you. Because the same way this message found you at the right moment, your words might find them at exactly the right moment too. Do not underestimate what God can do through a simple conversation. The third thing is this. Do one thing today that shows you believe the breakthrough is coming. It might be small. It might look ridiculous to anyone watching. But do something that says, I am acting like what God promised is real. Because faith is not just a feeling. It is a movement. It is a foot that steps forward before the path is fully visible. Take the step. I want to close with this. You came to this video today not fully knowing why, but something in you said stay. And now you know more about why you are still standing than you did an hour ago. You know that the silence was not empty. You know that the tears were not lost. You know that the waiting was building something. You know that the breakthrough is close. And you know that the enemy is lying when he says otherwise. But more than any of that, you know now that you are seen. Fully, specifically, personally. Not as a number in a crowd, but as a child whose father left everything to come running. That truth is worth defending. Guard it. Return to it when the voices get loud. Hold it like the most valuable thing you own, because it is. God has not forgotten you. God has not moved on. God has not changed his mind. And whatever is ahead of you, you are not going into it alone. If this message did something in your spirit today, I want to ask you to do 3 things before you leave. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the bell notification so the next message finds you just like this one did. We post content like this regularly because we believe there are people out there in exactly these seasons who need exactly these words. And before you go, I want to ask you something in the comments. What is the one thing from today's message that hit you the hardest? Was it the kintsugi analogy? Was it the Daniel story? Was it the marathon runner at mile 24? Drop it below. Because your answer might be the thing that keeps someone else who reads the comments from giving up today. And if this message is for someone you know, someone in a hard season, someone who needs to hear that they have not been forgotten, send it to them right now. Do not overthink it. Just send it, because that is not a coincidence either. We will see you in the next one.